Title screen, National Park Service Arrowhead logo, Appomattox Courthouse National Historical Park. Union and Confederate soldiers at Appomattox with Ranger Chris and Volunteer
Hello,
Mike.
my name is Chris Bingham. I'm a park guide here at Appomattox Courthouse National Historical Park.
My name is Mike Amel, and I volunteer at the park.
And we're actually standing here in the village of Appomattox Courthouse. Community of about 100 people here in 1865. Some of the buildings behind me are the originals from 1865, including the Clover Hill Tavern right there in the middle. That is where the parole passes would have been printed for the Confederate soldiers after they surrendered here with Lee's army. What we're going to talk about in the next few minutes is how the average soldier on both sides would have been dressed, equipped, and armed here during the Appomattox campaign. There's almost 95,000 soldiers within only 5 miles of this small village on April 9th, 1865. So to start out with, we'll talk a little bit about the weapons we're carrying. Very similar, very common throughout the Civil War. These are rifled muskets. They're 58 caliber, a little bit smaller with 57 caliber infield that he's carrying, but they're basically identical. I'm carrying a Springfield rifled musket made in a northern factory. Again, 58 caliber, muzzle loading, slow to load and fire. Yours is a little bit different.
Same way to fire it and load it. 57 caliber, it's an infield, and this comes from England.
Exactly. The British were doing a lot of business with both sides during the American Civil War, selling guns to both sides, and that was a favorite among many of the Confederates in Lee's army. We have equipment that we have to carry to load and fire this weapon. We also have a second weapon on us, the bayonet, which could be used as a shock weapon to try to scare the enemy. The drawback of it is if you're actually using it in a hand-to-hand fashion, you have to be this close.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing about when you have to pull this weapon out and use it. We're making eye contact with each other.
And there's very little hand-to-hand combat during the Civil War. There's some exceptions, but most of the fighting is further apart than that, luckily for these soldiers. The bayonets are more often used as a tool to dig trenches, to help set up your tent at night, to stack your musket at the end of the march, things of that
use
nature.
it for when you're cooking. Many uses.
The other pieces of equipment we have for this musket include the cartridge box. Leather box carries the paper cartridges with gunpowder and mini ball all wrapped up together. About 40 rounds in a box of this size. Mine is a little bit flashier than the Confederate version. I've got my U.S. stamp buckle there on the top. I have a little bit more brass on the strap as well.
Mine's pretty basic. It doesn't have any emblem or anything on it. In fact, I have a cloth strap that's painted black to look like leather.
But it does the same purpose. It suits the purpose.
Also, we're both carrying a cap box. Has a little, looks like a top hat, piece of brass, and that's what makes this weapon fire.
Without these pieces, we could not use our rifles. We could not do our job as soldiers. So these are vitally important for us to have. The other pieces of equipment we have on us now that we would carry with us on the march are more for our own personal uses than fighting, including the Haversack, which is essentially our lunchbox. Now, what's in your Haversack there?
Mine is basically personal items. I've got some money in there if I ever get someplace to spend it. I've got a pencil and paper so I can write home. My candle's in there, and I even got a piece of hardtack in case I get hungry.
I also have a piece of hardtack here, which is essentially the bread ration for the U.S. Army. Sometimes the Confederates would have been issued it as well. Maybe salt pork or bacon would complement this. So I carry my food in the haversack. Mine is canvas as well, but it's tarred, which makes it somewhat waterproof. And therefore, my food's not going to get soggy. It just shows some of the higher quality items coming out of the northern factories during the Civil War.
Mine being canvas, it's not waterproof. So a lot of my food and personal items are going to get wet. So one of the bad things about war is after a battle, I'm going to go out and check out these dead soldiers, and if their equipment is better than mine, I'm going to take theirs.
Just one of the realities of the Confederate Army trying to supply itself during the war. The other item we're carrying is a canteen. Mine is standard issue for the Union Army. It is tin. It has this nice cloth cover. Makes it a little bit cooler. It makes it essentially less shiny in the sun, makes it less noisy when I'm marching.
Mine is wood. It's a better looking canteen, but this was the most deadliest weapon probably of the war because even if the water was good, they didn't know about the germs. And this wood canteen is porous, and those germs would get in those pores, and it would be deadly.
And even with good water and a decent canteen, you might have the same result. The water supply could be simply bad. It might lead to a lot of disease, and a lot more soldiers are going to die of diseases than of actual battle wounds.
What's that cap you're wearing?
The cap I'm wearing, this is a forage cap to transition to our uniforms. This is standard issue for the Union Army, the federal soldier that I'm portraying here. Throughout the entire war, there were soldiers wearing this here at Appomattox. It is kind of a floppy cap. It provides very little protection from the sun, but the U.S. Army being more regulated than the Confederate, this is the hat they expected soldiers to wear.
And I was actually issued that kind of hat also, but as soon as I got a chance, I went and bought what is called a slouch hat. Notice that this will keep the sun off my ears, back of my neck, and also if it's raining, the rain's not going to run down into my uniform and get me wet.
A little bit better. I think I might like that better. Now, in terms of the rest of our uniform, I'm portraying, again, a federal soldier, typical throughout the war. My sack coat, my trousers, made of wool, in a northern factory, very typical for the U.S. Army. My brogans, same thing, just leather shoes. Yours have a little bit different story.
I'm also wearing brogans, but mine come from England, and my coat is a wool coat that came from England also. And if you've been following, a lot of my equipment came from England. But I'm also wearing a pair of pants that were made in the South, and it's called jean cloth. It's a blend of cotton and wool. Cotton fibers would run one direction, the wool fibers would run the other, and it was very durable and itchy.
Easy to produce. Yeah, we're wearing shirts and underdrawers underneath this as well, which you can't see luckily, just to complete our outfit here, if you will, our uniform. That brings up a good point about Mike's uniform, about so many things coming from England through the blockade. That's one thing that Lee's army is definitely counting on, are a lot of foreign supplies. And the photographs that we have from April of 1865 of Confederate prisoners, of unfortunately dead soldiers, show troops equipped very much like this with a lot of English-made materials. And what that really does is bust a lot of the post-war myth that the Confederate soldier at the end of the war was always ragged and barefoot. The reality was a lot more complex.
By the time they got here to Appomattox, they were very well equipped.
Considering what they'd been through, especially. Mm-hmm. Well, that was a very brief glance as to how the typical soldier on both sides would have been dressed and equipped during the Appomattox campaign. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope it sparked some interest into learning more about this subject. Thank you.
Thank you.